2022
Pat,
regular meeting.
Pat,
Oh,
Pat.
the Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you for being here with us this morning. Mr. Mokrajewski, first on our agenda. Actually, prior to that, Mr. Mokrajewski, I'll say I apologize for us being a little bit late beginning this meeting. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, which we have, for the most part, overcome. Mr. Mokrajewski, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
We do not, Chair. Well, I should say that it's my understanding there was one item from the consent calendar pulled. Other than that, we don't have any adjustments.
Correct. And I believe that on the consent calendar, item 2, let's see, item A2, 5A2 has been pulled for separate discussion. Then moving along, board, any adjustments? I see none. Emergency business, Mr. Mokrajewski.
We don't have any emergency business today.
Thank you so much. Then we'll move along to public comments. We'll be taking the public comments in the order that you've signed up, and we allow 3 minutes per person. The chair does have the option of limiting the length of public comment. We will not do that today. We'll continue with public comment until everyone has spoken. You'll have 3 minutes. Once the clock begins, you'll see the clock on your screen. Keep an eye on that clock because I will not be giving a warning when it approaches 0. When it hits 0, Ms. Jones will be muting the mic and moving along to the next speaker or to the next agenda item. With that, oh, and I will mention, by the way, if you want to submit comments in writing, you can do so and just send it to Dinah Jones at lanecounty.gov, at lanecounty.gov, and that is in our agenda. So as we move forward then, Ms. Jones, will you control the microphone and introduce the speakers?
Thank you, Chair Farr. At this time, if you have signed up to participate in public comment, I will ask all of you to raise your virtual hands so we can get an idea of everyone who would like to participate, and I can get you in a queue. And with that, I will begin our public comment. Our first speaker will be Linda Kelly, followed by Patricia Hine. Linda, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public comment. Linda, I show you are self-muted.
All right.
There you go.
Are we good? Great, thank you. Okay, let's see. Good morning, County Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Linda Kelly and I reside in Eugene. I am in Commissioner Traeger's district and I do volunteer with 350 Eugene. I'm here today to encourage you to pass the Climate Action Plan in its new format on March 15th. I see there had been some scheduling challenges that led to the short time frame and confusion at the last Climate Action Committee meeting. I was discouraged at that time to note language change in the new draft that loosened the county's original statements around prohibiting new natural gas accounts in Lane County. I now understand that the county does not have jurisdiction over cities within the county for this type of policy and see why the language was altered. I am in an ongoing learning curve to see how legislative policy can and cannot be implemented. There is legislative progress here in Eugene and desire to move towards electrification in a few other small cities in the county. This will be where the work can move forward most effectively, I now understand. That said, it is imperative that we transition to electricity in any way possible. The low-hanging fruit is new construction. Local groups will continue to work towards this goal. Northwest Natural has been strongly advocating for choosing natural gas over electricity in recent months and encouraging customers to change from electric to gas. This is diametrically opposed to the direction we must move in as soon as possible. This speaks to being careful about making goals out 5 or 10 years, as they will likely take any opportunity to grow their service as much as possible. We just can't afford this. The County Action Plan itself is comprehensive and has many well-formatted pieces of information for the public. The chart on page 32 on energy use, comparing electrical and gas use for homes is excellent, a really helpful tool. I thank you all for your work on this report. Mark Nystrom in particular has taken on a large task and could certainly use some more support in his work. Again, please pass this plan with haste and we can move forward with implementation and delineated actions. Thank you all for your work.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you for your public comment. Our next speaker will be Patricia Hine, followed by Danny. Patricia, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public comment.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Patty Hine. I live in rural Lane County in Commissioner Buck's district and volunteer also with climate justice organization 350 Eugene. I appreciate your time this morning and also am grateful to the board for taking public comment during your meetings. 3 years ago, we were pleased when Lane County embarked in earnest on climate action planning. We met early with Dan Hurley and later with Mark Nystrom and have been participating in the various community engagement opportunities, including community outreach meetings, the Climate Advisory Committee, and its forestry subcommittee. The science is clear. The climate crisis is here and we are running out of time. A glance at last week's UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report says we are in the middle of or quickly approaching multiple intersecting and cascading climate tipping points, and the situation demands immediate action. I am here today to urge you to vote soon in support of your draft climate action plan with its strong commitments to electrification. Comprehensive electrification of our buildings and transportation is key to protecting public health and is the way local communities are leading the way to reduce planet heating emissions. As you know, the volunteers at 350 Eugene advocate for the strongest possible climate policy. We've been working with the climate action planners at the City of Eugene since 2014, and they, as you know, are in the first stages of limiting expansion of fossil fuels and making a plan to decarbonize Eugene's buildings. The climate action plan for the county is a solid one, and it's critical that you pass it. We look forward to advancing strong electrification policy with the board in the coming months, and we, along with many other Oregon communities, as we strive to reduce emissions, increase resilience, and move to 100% renewable energy. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you for your public comment. Our next speaker will be Danny, followed by Ann Nealand. Danny, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public comment.
Good morning, everyone. So I pull the instruments that I've been playing for a while, but I think it's worth it. And I'm not gonna let Russia or climate make us forget about COVID. So as I've been saying for a while now, the COVID numbers have been inflated across the country. The cat is well out of the bag, and it has been for a while. Luckily in Oregon, there's a grand jury petition for an investigation of the CDC and FDA for data manipulation, which is pretty serious. And I think that now the dust is kind of starting to settle, it's time to take a real deep look under the hood and figure out specifically how many people died from COVID in our community, how many were hospitalized because of COVID, and how many of those hospitalizations were people who were mRNA injected versus not injected. And then compare those numbers with the reported numbers. I think that this will be a very important exercise. Moreover, look at the young population heart issues, post-vaccine rollout versus historical. And I think you should know by now, but I'm not sure, so I'm gonna say it. Children are at 0% risk of severe COVID effects. So there's really no benefit in injecting them, but there are known and unknown risks. Now the few left unconstitutional mandates are ending. It is known that the COVID vaccines do not stop the virus contraction or transmission. So rolling out digital vaccine records in our state, or anywhere for that matter, is unnecessary. While other areas are retiring the use of these vax IDs, Oregon is getting ready to roll it out. And really what this will do is create an option for businesses to discriminate against vaccination status, which is wrong and unconstitutional. I'd like to encourage people that are listening who have suffered from vaccine injuries in our community to please speak up. Don't be quiet. Your stories need to be heard, especially children, and especially if your employer forced you or coerced you to get the vaccination. OHA is lifting the rules for general masking, but they will not answer my questions. I've been asking them, what do you mean by lifting? I want to know when they will be repealed. And so far, they're not answering. Of course, I will insist, I'll get on the phone, I'll do whatever I need to do for them to answer my question. And again, I want to know when the rules will be repealed, because if they said that they're not permanent, then it's time to repeal them. I see I'm running out of time. So thank you for listening. As always, I think you're listening. I hope you're listening. And now I'm on a mission here to protect our human rights. So I'm gonna keep on this fight as much as I need to. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you for your public comment. Our next speaker is Ann Nealon. Ann, I apologize, I inadvertently lowered your hand, but you are still in queue. So I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public testimony. And I'm showing you there. I'm showing you are self-muted. There you go. There you go.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Ann Nealon. The last thing I said in my public comment last week was that I didn't know what authority this body has to enforce the state's end to the masking requirements at schools. But I urge you all to use your official capacities to do the right thing by our kids and their health. In the board comments that followed public comment, Commissioner Burney spoke to the commission's authority saying, we don't establish policy for the districts. Commissioner Farr echoed this statement later in the meeting. In the next part of the meeting, board meeting, which addressed COVID-19 response and recovery, Incident Commander Adams detailed Lane County Public Health active relationship with the county school board, saying, quote, for months, this response has met weekly with each and every of our school districts across Lane County, with superintendents, with health staff. We have sat with them to help them understand each new reiteration of the state level guidance and what it means and how to implement that. We continue to work with individual school districts, spend time with the staff teams that put together the school districts, trying to help them think through policy recommendations that they may be making to their superintendents. That's the end of the quote. From this description, Mr. Adam details how Lane County Public Health is effectively helping school districts make and implement policy. And I think I'm correct when I say this board oversees Lane County Public Health, Mr. Adams and his staff. So while I hear Commissioner Burney and Commissioner Farr's limited statements that this board does not make policy for school districts, I think you sell yourselves, your constituents, and the county as a whole short who choose to ignore this board's authority over LCPH and their work to influence school board policies, specifically around masking. I see it as an abdication of responsibility when LCPH, under your supervision, is in fact shaping school board policies. At the same time, however, I do want to commend Commissioner Bozovich's salient inquiries about the adverse effects of the LCPH narrow focus on stopping the spread of COVID without looking at the adverse consequences of these policies, and Commissioner Burney's also rightly focuses on the behavioral and mental health impacts on students from school policies, including masking. So I urge this board to follow these important lines of inquiry and look closely at how school board policies are being shaped by LCPH in order to address concerns about adverse effects on our kids. And again, I urge this board to recognize and take accountability for the local school board policies that are being established under your watch. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment.
Ms. Jones, prior to your calling the next speaker, Ms. Jones, I'll remind the board that we do have a 10 o'clock inflexible time certain today. If we get to 10 o'clock and public comment continues, we will halt it and then reinstate it after the 10 o'clock time certain. Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Chair Farr. Our next speaker is Harry Sanger, followed by Mike McFadden. Mr. Sanger, I will unmute your mic. Looks like you are unmuted. You may begin your public testimony.
Thank you, Diana. And those two speakers before me were excellent points. I thank them. I'd like to highlight C19vaxreactions.com is a website created for those experiencing adverse vaccine reactions to share their stories. These stories are available for the public and our commissioners to review at C19vaxreactions.com. What might not be apparent reading through the testimonials is that this website was created by former Green Bay Packer and current Sisters resident Ken Rutgers and his wife Cheryl after she experienced neurological reactions following the mRNA shot. Ken and Cheryl have been featured at local events like the Unite for Medical Freedom rally, where many of our neighbors became familiar with this, all the way up to national appearances with U.S. Senator Ron Johnson from the Packers' home state of Wisconsin. I appreciate that the narrative is shifting and some of these topics that were immediately written off as misinformation are now seeing the light of day. We need to recognize the harm and not listening or believing stories that don't quite mesh with our particular viewpoints. Justice being blind does not mean blindly following one single vision, but listening to a diversity of viewpoints to form a comprehensive worldview. We are finally seeing justice and the freedom of choice being returned to many Oregonians when it comes to wearing a mask. We must recognize that this freedom is still being withheld from occupations falling under state agencies like the OHA and ODE. We must also recognize the danger of not providing a choice in vaccination. Today is the original date announced for the rollout of Oregon's digital vaccine passport known as the Smart Health Card. The state has insisted this digital access permit will be voluntary, but any public facilities or private businesses who would restrict access dependent on a proof of voluntary medical treatment are engaging in civil liberties violations to coerce a desired behavior. This is unacceptable in Lane County, and I ask again that this body resolve to encourage the state to drop a digital identification system and explicitly denounce the possibility of neighbors being asked for "your papers, please." We have a few stories to share today, starting with SR in Oregon. I am 58 years old, married, mother of 2 adult daughters, and I have 3 grandchildren, currently in a graduate program studying clinical medical health. I was healthy before the vaccine. I had the first dose of Moderna on 1/14/21. On 1/19/21, presented at emergency room with stroke symptoms to include bilateral facial paresthesia, left leg, left arm weakness, and numbness. No indication of Bell's palsy, normal brain MRI without contrast, normal CBC, normal EKG. 1/21/21, neurologist number 1 wanted to test me for everything MS and refused to correlate my symptoms with the vaccine. She told me to take the second dose and see what happens. On 1/28/21, neurologist number 2 took my symptoms seriously. He diagnosed me with autoimmune neuropathy, suspected vaccine reaction. PCP suggested molecular mimicry phenomena. My symptoms today include bilateral facial paresthesia with nerve pain around eyes and around mouth, left arm weakness and numbness, left leg weakness and feels shaky at times, intermittent body chills, fingertip burning sensation, brain fog, autonomic dysfunction. My greatest fear is I will develop an autoimmune disease or degenerative neurological disease. Without a long-term vaccine control group, I will be looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life. That's just one of the stories. Thank you for providing this forum, and we look forward to returning to in-person meetings.
Thank you for your public comment. Our next speaker is Mike McFadden, followed by Dan Poolju. Mike, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public testimony.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Affirmative.
Thank you, Chair. The reason I wanted to speak this morning to start off is just to sort of bring my concern about the outlook for our economy here locally, as well as, obviously nationally and internationally with all that's going on. But I really do feel really afraid that a lot of fixed income, low income, working people are really going to be facing some really difficult times ahead. Already have been obviously facing difficult times for a while. And so I just hope that as these events all sort of continue to converge and unfold, that our local officials will be ready to step in and help people to deal with the economic consequences of all the stuff that's going to be happening in the future. I've spoken a lot about how I view the housing crisis. This is intersecting with public health. So I hope that, like I've said before, that we continue to do more work to really address the really critical housing shortage in our community, with, rental and real estate pricing so high and inflating so fast. And, it really spells like, housing instability for many, many people who are, employed and with reasonably, good jobs even. So a lot of really difficult times ahead, I fear. I also wanted this morning to talk a little bit about how much I appreciate these public comment opportunities that the board provides to the public. as a listener, I think that it's helpful for me to kind of hear what members of my community are thinking about. And, you know, I think that having a public comment opportunity kind of, you know, means that you have to take some profane language or, you know, rough feedback with everything else. And so I agreed with the previous speaker when he confronted the chair about interrupting, and I'm glad that the chair has ceased doing that because it really disrupts people's thoughts, especially as they're nearing the end of their time. But also, you know, I really think that it's important for the members of the board to use the remonstrance period to give their feedback on the community, even if they're not responding to things the members of the public have said, and to not just let that time go unused, because then it sort of gives the impression, whether intentional or not, that the board doesn't really care to respond or share their perspectives on current events and in the community. So just wanted to share how much I appreciate this time and give my thanks to all of you, and have a great day.
Thank you for your public comment. Our next speaker will be Dan Polju, followed by Dean Saleya. Dan, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public comment.
Thank you. My name is Dan Polju. In reference to what Harry was talking about, I'm going to read you the vaccine injury testimony of KR from Oregon, posted July 30th, 2021. I'm not real active, but healthy. I do have to have a knee replacement in October. I took the first Moderna shot Friday, March 5th, and was okay that day. Saturday, I woke up okay. Then at about 1 p.m., my whole right arm on the injection side started hurting. Then I started feeling flu-like symptoms and dizzy. This lasted about 5 hours, and then I was okay. No more problems. On April 2nd, I went for the booster at 2 p.m. I was okay until about 6 p.m. when my feet, lower legs, and hands started cramping. I started drinking water, Gatorade, anything to help. Nothing did. I would sit, stretch, stand, anything to make it stop. Finally, about 11 p.m., it started to subside and went away. Saturday morning, woke up okay, feeling fine. By 2 p.m., I started feeling all the flu-like symptoms again, along with feeling faint and weak. I started feeling so bad, I went to bed. Body aches, fever, felt like I couldn't even stand up. I was in bed for 3 days, then was able to work part days for the next 4 days until it went away. A couple weeks go by, I noticed knee is hurting more than my shoulders and back hurt. Then to the point I can't lift my arms. The pain was so bad, I couldn't sleep. I even took some pain meds, still no relief. Then I'm just nothing like myself, tired, fatigue, my concentration not the same, emotional. It wasn't real bad, I just brushed it off as overworking. I got to the point I was only working 5 hours a day and could hardly make it home. I don't even know how I drove home sometimes. Then I started not having and bad stomach, queasy stomach, dizzy. Nothing tasted good. This has gone on now for 2.5 months. We're 15 pounds. Seeing the doctor June 8th and July 26th. All labs are good. Put me on omeprazole 1 time daily. I'm now taking 2 times and still don't feel well, but able to work 8 hours now. Going forward is unknown for now. I did mention that I thought it was from the vaccine and got no reply. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Our next speaker is Dean Saleya, followed by Karen Hancock. Dean, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public comment.
Thank you, commissioners, for this time. I will be continuing with the stories from the C19 website. And this is from VC Oregon 8/24/21. Hi, my name is Valerie. I received the J&J vaccine 7/27/21. Immediately had numbness in my arm and then chest pain, heart pain. My arm was hurting and numb then the next morning. I woke up with a massive headache and was extremely dizzy with vertigo. The room was spinning with nausea. I've lost 12 pounds in 6 days, couldn't eat at all. Left side of my body goes numb, Face is numb. I drool when it happens. Both my legs go numb and I can't feel them. It comes and goes. I've been in the hospital 4 times, but still have numb and tingling. Now, mostly left side of my body. Once my right side went numb. Every day, hands, feet, and face constantly numb. Exhausted, trouble sleeping, cloudy thinking, still managing, but no one seems to understand. Doctors at the hospital agree it's from the vaccine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Our next speaker is Karen Hancock, followed by Tressa Beaver. Karen, I will reset the timer and unmute your microphone, and you may begin your public comment. Karen, I do show you are self-muted. Karen, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I do show that you are self-muted. I will pause and go to Tressa Beaver and return to you momentarily. Tressa, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public comment.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Ms. Jones, can you start the, I'm sorry, go ahead. Continue.
Can you hear me?
Affirmative.
Great. My name is Tressa Beaver, and I will continue with the C19 website documentation. LL Oregon, 8/24/21. I'll start by saying that I am an advocate for vaccines. I work in the public health and have no question about its overall safety for the general population. I rarely share my experience with others because I don't want to show any kind of doubt in friends and family. My story. I received my first dose of the Moderna vaccine sometime January 2021. Within 3 minutes, I felt a rush of metal taste in my mouth and began feeling lightheaded. EMTs took me to the back room where I was motioned. I began feeling spacey and confused. I felt my throat begin to quickly thicken. Hives appeared on my chest and I couldn't stop shaking. I briefly lost consciousness and
Unmute.
received
Hopefully.
my first
I
dose.
just something and hopefully that'll be it.
Hello? I received my first dose of epinephrine into my leg. Symptoms subsided quickly. I was transferred to the hospital via ambulance and experienced another episode of throat swelling, shaking, etc. I received a second dose of epinephrine in the ambulance. I was admitted to the ER. After the second dose of epinephrine wore off, another episode, another EpiPen. I was then admitted to the ICU. I was discharged as my condition improved and symptoms became more tolerable as time went on. I continued to experience all the same symptoms randomly on and off for the next 2 weeks, with symptoms decreasing in severity with each episode. Things seemed to calm down after that, and all was well. Since that time, I continued to experience episodes, lightheadedness, throat swelling, and shaking, extreme fatigue when it's all over at random. I have had 4 to 5 episodes since the vaccine. They are mild in.
Thank you for your public comment. I will now return to Karen Hancock and see if we can get your microphone unmuted. Karen, if you can try to unmute your microphone, you should be able to begin your public comment. Karen, I'm still showing you as self-muted. I think at one point you were able to get it because I had to mute you and I've removed that, but I'm not sure if you see any button on your phone to speak. I'll give you a couple more seconds to give it a shot. At this time, Chair Farr, I do not see any additional hands raised for public comment besides Karen Hancock. Actually, I do. I see two. Dean, I do show that your hand has gone back up, but you have already presented public comment, so we do only allow one presentation per meeting. I do see Steve Godu has raised his hand, so I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public comment.
Good day. Can I be heard?
Affirmative.
Yes. Hello. Yes, I'm with the group speaking about these testimonies for the COVID. This date is unknown. It's from LU in Oregon. Got my first jab a couple of days ago. First day had typical sore arm, headache, flushed, feverish feeling, nausea, stomach upset, dizzy, fatigued, and bleh feeling. Yesterday, I felt horribly strange. Vertigo, dizziness was way worse, and anxiety type symptoms, tight chest, rapid heart, feeling shorter of breath, disoriented feeling. My head, brain felt horribly full, no energy, stomach pain, body aches, blurry vision, and just so strange. At one point, I figured I'd just lay down and try to sleep. All of a sudden, it was like my heart started beating quadruple time, super fast. It took my breath. At the same time, it was like somebody was flipping me upside down and back repeatedly. I know it sounds really strange, but the vertigo was so intense, it was like I was horribly drunk and my head was just top spinning. I sat up and it lasted a few more seconds, and then thank God it stopped. At last night, then when trying to sleep, I kept waking with a strange startled feeling, and then my heart would beat fast. All day today, I've just felt very poorly, still very much fatigued, no energy. My eyes still feel very blurry. My chest still hurts from time to time, as well as my heart will still race here and there. Still muscles tightness and brain feels very full, so hard to explain. I have a call into my doctor's office now, and I will hopefully be seen soon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your public comment. Karen, I will try one last time to see if we can get you into the meeting. I do show that you are self-muted. If you can find your button to unmute, we will go ahead and hear your public comment. I do show that Dean has raised your hand again. Dean, I'm going to unmute your microphone for a moment on the off chance that you are maybe using Dean's login and you are not Dean. So we'll see if this, so I'm going to unmute you and see if you're maybe a different person. Hold on. Dean, you now are unmuted and self-muted. Do you? Okay.
Can you hear me?
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Thank you.
Can
Yes.
you give your name, please?
Yes, Michelle, and I am a Springfield resident. And I could not find my Zoom link because I registered twice and it never came through. So thank you for taking my call. And I too am reading from the C19 injury website. This is from JG in Oregon, no date. I work at a medical call center answering when people call to schedule an appointment with their doctor. Roughly, there are about 200 call agents at our center. I speak with approximately 50 to 60 people per day. On average, I speak with 1 to 3 people a day who claim they are having serious side effects from the injection. The most common complaint I hear is extreme pain, numbness, and tingling in one or both arms and/or legs. Other common complaints have been bladder infection that don't respond to the antibiotics, swollen testicles, mental haze, lack of emotion, intense headaches, ringing in the ears, strokes, extremely heavy menstrual cycles, tremors and shakes, diminished fine motor skills, bleeding from the penis, and all over unexplained body pain. I have only asked 2 of my coworkers if they are hearing the same complaints as I am, as questioning the injection is frowned upon and I cannot afford to get fired. Both agreed with between 1 to 3 patients a day is the current frequency, and the most common side effects we hear are those listed above. That number has been increasing in frequency and intensity of complaint over the past 2 months. It's important to note that we are told not to ask the callers if they have received the injection. I believe these numbers would be much higher if we did. In my own comment here, for nearly 40 years, I have suffered constant and continuous illness and disabilities as a result of childhood vaccines that I have received myself. I am questioning, is it the state of Oregon's goal to segregate me and others from society for refusing an experimental mRNA injection? Living in a liberal state as Oregon, it seems I should expect non-discriminatory inclusion and tolerance for my individual health choices. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Michelle.
For your public.
Thank you.
At this time, my final speaker is Karen Hancock. Karen, I will try for a couple more seconds to see if we can unmute you. Otherwise, Chair Farr, I will return the meeting to you. Karen, I do still show that you are self-muted. When the timer ends, I'm just going to return the meeting to Chair Farr. Chair Farr, I will return the meeting to you at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Jones, and thank you to the folks who testified this morning. We'll now take time for commissioners to respond and or remonstrate. Prior to doing that, I will mention that we do have a 10 a.m. time certain. I have checked with the participants, and for this particular time certain, we can possibly push it a little bit late, but we have a 30-minute presentation from the Sheriff's Department that I'll judge that after remonstrances to see if we begin the item 6A prior to or after the time certain. So at this point, commissioners, I will look to the queue for your hands raised. This usually stirs the pot. I see none raised. Then no remonstrances, no responses.
Chair, Commissioner Buck's hand is up.
Then I see it on the screen. Sorry, I don't see it on my queue. Commissioner Buck, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I want to appreciate everybody who is speaking today and hearing the stories of people around Oregon. I specifically want to mention that we still have war between Russia and Ukraine that is affecting us all deeply around the world, has a lot of people on edge, that as we try to exit the COVID pandemic, this new crisis seems to have cropped up and has a lot of people in a state of alternate anxiety. This is really challenging for folks as I'm talking to them, and it brings instability to the world in our region and locally as well. I want to continue to advocate for my support for the Ukrainian people and know that we collectively as Americans support them. And if there's something we can do as a board to support them in a more tangible way, I'd love to hear those opportunities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Buck. I see no further hands raised in the queue or visually. Then I'll just ever so briefly state my my response. Thank you once again for speaking today. And Commissioner Triggerand mentioned that you and I used to have desks right beside Linda Kelly. It was interesting to hear Linda's voice and seeing your face on the screen. Our desks were basically in a row at Food for Lane County. Linda, welcome from the old days. The only thing I'm going to mention is that today we had no Board of Health meeting. We're doing that bi-weekly currently as we move through the current situation with the COVID and response. The only thing that I'm going to mention, and I stated earlier that I would mention this, is that while we're on the verge of new guidelines, my recommendation to my friends and my family will be maintain your personal hygiene, maintain personal protection, and do the best you can to keep yourself and your family safe. Then Commissioner Burney, I'll go to you. Then I have one more thing to say after that. Commissioner Burney.
Oh, I don't mean to interrupt you, Chair.
Then I will state this, and then I won't just come back to the mic. Regarding school boards and what school boards do regarding policy. School boards, I know this from experience, and I'm not the only one on this, on the Board of County Commissioners that has spent time on a school board, but you look for input from as many sources as you can. And as was mentioned, you look for different sources of input in order to get a more global view of how to make your own policy. We don't make policy for school boards. However, our health department does advise anyone who asks for advice. School boards typically do ask for advice for a lot of school districts in Lane County. And as you can see from the different responses from different school boards, not everybody takes the same meaning from the advice that they get, and not everybody establishes policy the same based upon the same set of advice. That's all I'll say regarding that, and go to you, Commissioner Burney.
Thank you, Chair. First, I also want to thank everyone, from those testifying regarding support for climate action to those providing personal stories of people who have experienced negative effects associated with vaccines. I want to say for myself that I find those stories exceedingly moving. I don't think, well, I can't speak for others on this body, but I see no ideological bent on this board. I see, and when I was very moved by those examples, and I think as we move beyond COVID, which in fact, as a pandemic, and treat it more like a bad flu or an endemic, which from everything I can see, from the CDC to the state's OHA, it looks like that's exactly what is occurring. Ironically, since Lane County has not enforced anyone else's mandates for other sectors of the economy, be it schools or businesses or whatever, my understanding, we'll find out next week from our public health department, is we will continue to offer those vaccines, but I'm going to make sure that we ask them when they present next week, their response to these kinds of stories, because we're finally at a point where we can look backwards, we can start assessing things as we move into hopefully normal life again. I just want to thank everyone. I don't want to take my time to discuss world events here. Obviously, the world is a fragile, brittle, and dangerous place these days. But I did want to respond to those people who were good enough to provide testimony today. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Burney. And with that, we'll move down the agenda. I see no further remonstrances. Next item on our agenda is the consent calendar, item 5. All items that are on the consent calendar can be found in detail if you click on view material in our agenda, which is posted for today on Lane County's website. If you look at today's consent calendar, item 5A2 has been pulled for separate discussion. That is order 22-03-08-01 has been pulled for separate discussion. So we have the consent calendar minus item 5A2. Do I have a motion?
Chair, I'll move that we pass the consent calendar for Tuesday, March 8th, 2022, minus item 5A2.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Trieger, seconded by Commissioner Burney. We have no discussion to the item. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. And we'll move now to what is item 5A2, order 22-03-08-01. Commissioner Bozovich, you have asked for this item to be pulled for separate discussion. I will turn the mic to you.
Thank you, Chair. I pulled the nomination of Dawn Leslie to the Budget Committee from the agenda because I believe there's a serious issue with this nomination. I know that typically the board approves nominations from other board members to the Budget Committee in a rather perfunctory process, but we have these votes because there is a need for the ability of the board to have some oversight of who's on our Budget Committee. 3 years ago, I pulled this same item because I felt that Dawn Leslie had been less than truthful in some of her campaign in 2014 and in a recently written opinion piece. We went ahead and, against my no vote, appointed her to the Budget Committee. But at this time, there is a very serious issue with Dawn Leslie. On February 19th in Mapleton, at a candidate meet and greet for her current campaign for county commissioner, Dawn Leslie lied about an action of the Budget Committee she was involved in. Back on January 19th, the Budget Committee met to consider the elected officials' compensation board's recommendations for pay increases to elected officials. Late in the meeting, at about timestamp 1 hour and 4 minutes, Commissioner Trieger made a motion that was seconded by committee member Bruce Weber to increase the commissioner's salaries by 2% as a cost of living adjustment. That motion was voted on with Dawn Leslie in the affirmative at that meeting, but was failed to move forward to the board because it did not receive the 6 votes required under Budget Committee rules, even though it was a 5-2 vote. At that Mapleton meet and greet, Ms. Leslie denied that the motion was even brought up at the meeting and clearly states on audio recording that I have, and I can submit these to the rest of the board, that there was never a motion even made to increase commissioner salaries. I find this egregious, and I'm asking Commissioner Buck to withdraw Dawn Leslie's nomination to the Budget Committee, because we cannot have somebody on the Budget Committee that will lie about the actual actions of the Budget Committee, particularly while she was chairing the meeting. So I ask first for Commissioner Buck to withdraw the nomination, and if not so, I will ask for the board to vote against this nomination. And if you would like to hear the audio recording, I can play that for you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozievich. I'm looking to the queue to see if there's any response for discussion on this item. I see no one hand raised in the queue for response to the item. Then Commissioner Bozievich, you raise an interesting comment and a very serious allegation. I'll go to the queue. We do have a queue now. Vice Chair Trieger.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to call for the vote, and I would like to make the motion that we pass Order 22-03-08-01 in the matter of reappointing Dawn Leslie to the Lane County Budget Committee for District 5 for the term of January 1, 2022 to December 31, 2024.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Trieger, seconded by Commissioner Buck. We have a motion on the floor for Order 22-03-08-01 in the matter of reappointing Dawn Leslie to the Lane County Budget Committee for District 5 East Lane for the term of January 1st, 2022 to December 1st, 2024. Further discussion, Commissioner Bozievich.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make this clear, and I will supply this audio to anyone that wants to have it. That Dawn Leslie, in discussions with potential constituents from West Lane District, blatantly lied about her actions as a Budget Committee member. I can provide this evidence. I don't think this vote has to happen today. There's not anything imminent about making this appointment. The Budget Committee does not meet again for several months. We can hold this vote. So I would just ask the board to think about this motion, think about maybe investigating this, listen to the tape, go back and review the video of the Budget Committee meeting. It's available online. and determine for yourselves if you don't feel that Dawn Leslie lied about her actions as a budget committee person, and in particular her actions while chairing the meeting. I think this disqualifies her to be a budget committee member, and I urge you either to table this motion, withdraw the nomination, hold off, do some investigation, but don't move forward today. If not, I'll be voting no on the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozievich. I'm looking to the queue to see if there's any further discussion. I see no further discussion, but Commissioner Bozievich, you raised a pretty serious allegation regarding what you say is a blatant misrepresentation or a blatant lie. It's not something that any one of us, I don't think any one of us would condone such. However, I've not seen or heard the actual evidence myself. It's difficult for me to make a decision without a full set of the evidence. I would not vote in favor of somebody being on the budget committee who has knowingly and forthrightly, outrightly misrepresented the vote that they made on the budget committee. So I would, my preference would be to table this motion, to move it to next week's budget committee meeting, to give each of us a chance to listen to the allegation, listen to the facts, and see if there is some extenuating circumstance, perhaps beyond the actual tape, that would preclude a negative vote on this. So if I'm not going to make a motion to table, but I'll entertain one should anyone wish to table this to a vote next week in order for us to further review the allegation that Commissioner Bozievich has made regarding a blatant outright lie about a vote on the budget committee. Okay, I see no further motions. I'm a bit disappointed in that because it's causing me to make a vote without really a full set of information. And based on that, it's difficult for me to approve such a motion without hearing more about it. With such an allegation, I wish that we could table this. I wish we could have this discussion for the next week after each of us has a chance to take a look at it. But that being said, with no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of Order 22-03-02 in the matter of -01 in the matter of reappointing Dawn Leslie to the Lane County Budget Committee, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Nay. The vote passes 3-2 with Commissioners Bozievich and Commissioner Farr negative. And I've explained my negative vote on that. Then we'll move down the agenda to the next item on the agenda today is the Sheriff's Office. Now we have a 10 o'clock time certain, which it's now 10 o'clock. The Sheriff's item is scheduled for 30 minutes, may take a little bit less. I've checked with the participants and it looks as though for this occasion only, we can push the 10 o'clock item perhaps as late as 10:30 this morning. So without any opposition, we'll move on to item 6A, Sheriff's Office, which is orders 22-03-08-08, and we'll continue with what had been a 10 o'clock time certain immediately subsequent to this item. And with that, Mr. Mokrahajski, we have today on our panel Captain Clint Riley, and I believe Lieutenant Greg Rice is with us. Mr. Mokrahajski.
I'll turn it over to the Sheriff's Office. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks for having us. Myself and Lieutenant Greg Rice are here to talk today about our WellPath contract. So I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Rice and let him talk to you guys for a few minutes.
Morning, everybody. I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today about our medical contract with WellPath. I would like to share with you some history regarding the Sheriff's Office contracting medical, dental, and mental health services for adults in custody. In 2010, we posted a request for proposals, and Corizon was selected to be the provider. That contract expired in 2015, and at that time, we elected to post an RFP for a replacement for Corizon. This RFP resulted in 4 responses: Corizon, Correctional Health Partners, Correct Care Solutions, also known as CCS, and California Forensic Medical Group, also known as CFMG. CFMG was awarded the contract and began being our medical provider on July 1, 2015. In 2019, CFMG and CCS merged together and formed WellPath. That same year, the board approved a renewal of the contract with the end date of June 30th, 2022. Since the beginning of the contract with WellPath, they have continually made efforts to improve and expand the services they have been able to provide. With their assistance, the Sheriff's Office has been able to, over the years, implement new strategies and providing important care to the individuals in our facility. One example is the mental health program that you've heard us speak often about. A more recent example is a medication-assisted treatment program, known as MAP. Our MAP program allows individuals who are currently involved in a community-based program to stay on their medications, while also providing an opportunity to individuals in our care to start on a MAP program. Any individual who is released from custody that has been identified as wanting to engage in or was participating in the MAP program while in custody are provided a referral to a community MAP provider so they continue to receive the help that they want and need. During the pandemic, WellPath has built a strong relationship with Lane County Public Health. The partnerships between WellPath, Lane County Public Health, and the Sheriff's Office has significantly impacted the way that the Corrections Division has managed the pandemic. WellPath has provided COVID testing to over 8,300 AICs, has vaccinated over 500 AICs, and provided booster vaccines to over 120 AICs. WellPath staff has been vital to the success we have had in managing the COVID pandemic in our facility. If you've had the opportunity to attend the quarterly meetings that Megan Quillen, WellPath's HSA for our facility, conducts, you would have seen that the vast majority of the individuals in our care require significant medical care. If you have not had the opportunity to attend, I invite you to attend the next one in April. Last quarter, WellPath staff passed out about 90,000 medications, saw over 1,500 individuals for medical sick calls, while also providing mental health appointments to over 1,300 individuals. Additionally, the mental health staff conducted 1,100 suicide watch assessments. The level of service, care, and compassion provided to those in our custody that WellPath staff is providing is outstanding. This last November, the Sheriff's Office posted a request for letters of interest to see who might be interested in providing medical, dental, and mental health services in our facility. WellPath was the only response that we received. We also posted a notice of intent to negotiate to provide any other potential providers an opportunity to respond. No inquiries, responses, or protests were received. With the strong relationships that have been built between WellPath, community partners, and the Sheriff's Office, and the fact that WellPath was the only provider that submitted a response to the RLI, we are requesting that the board grants us permission to negotiate a contract in good faith with WellPath. If this is approved, the final contract will be presented to the board for ratifications. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lieutenant Rice. Captain Riley, anything to add?
I just wanted to add a little bit to that. Since WellPath took over, they were formerly known as CFMG, and then they merged with CCS to become WellPath in 2019. And since 2016, we've doubled our mental health staff in our facility. We've added a 24/7 intake nurse in our booking facility. Everybody that books into our facility is medically cleared at intake. And then we have another 24/7 registered nurse that works in the facility. So we have 2 registered nurses 24/7. And we take healthcare serious here. And we just continue to keep increasing that mental health aspect and medical aspect. And it spills over to the mental health summits and the community issues that we're dealing with as well. The folks we see cycling through the jails are also being seen at the ERs, and are folks that we would like to be seen in like a crisis center if we were able to get one built and constructed in our community. So it's a partnership we've developed with WellPath, and then WellPath is a partner working in the community as we're working on bigger projects as well. So I agree with Lieutenant Rice. They've been a great partner, and they continue to add services and work with us as we deal with this very difficult population of folks we see in our facility.
Thank you, Captain Riley and Lieutenant Rice. I will say this, Captain Riley, you've personally conducted more than just a handful of tours that I've been a part of, inviting people from the community and other elected officials to view not just the intake of the jail, but the entire operation of the jail. And I want to thank you for that. And anybody who has taken that tour from its start understands how very seriously every step of the way from the moment people enter the jail, how very seriously health and mental health is taken. So Captain Riley, I want to thank you for those tours and thank you for that ongoing commitment to flawless excellence. Thank you very much. And then I'm going to look to the queue. I see nobody with a hand raised. There we go. Commissioner Bernie.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't want to let Commissioner Buck always be the one to break the ice. I just want to extend Captain Riley. Thank you, Lieutenant Rice, and thank you, Captain Riley. Captain Riley, do other jails across the state have the kind of commitment to figuring out ways to provide mental health or whatever services the needs of inmates seem to bring with them? Because I continually am impressed with the array of services I hear about at our facility.
As I talk to my my colleagues around the state, we are very lucky. We have the jail levy, and we have the support of the commissioners, and we have a great sheriff, and funding right now allows us to do what we do in the jail. Other jails don't have the funding sources that we have right now. So many jails are trying to do what we're doing without having adequate funding sources to do it. So as you look across, I've been on a couple of groups. There was a bill that was passed a couple years ago. The CJC put a group together to look at healthcare across the state in jails and how it was being done. And really, budgets drive the issue. What do you have that you can put budget-wise towards this issue, and what do you want to do? And some jail, we have over a $5 million medical contract right now to provide the services. We have 6.5 mental health staff for a 382-bed jail. We have a 16-hour-a-week psychiatrist, 2 24/7 RNs, and other jails are lucky to have 1 mental health staff for the size of our jail and maybe 8 hours of nurse. So when you start comparing jails, it's not always an apple to an apple, and funding is a big part. Commissioner Farr talked about the tours that I do. Many of the folks we book into our facility here are alcoholics or addicted to drugs. And then we have to detox them off of that as they come into our facility, which could be very dangerous, especially alcohol. So we have a nurse that oversees that detox process as they're coming down. And I showed Commissioner Farr last time he was here that area. And oftentimes those folks book back out of here within 24 to 48 hours. So we're trying to, when you detox somebody, they need to go through that for weeks, not days. And so we have a nurse overseeing that to make sure that everyone's cared for. So it's across the state. I think most jails would like to do what we're doing here. They don't have the funding that we have to do it with.
Well, I'm going to take the liberty of agreeing, but suggesting one other thing, Captain, and that is the spirit with which you and others approach the position. I think that there are structural and policy issues, but I think there are also human issues that really impact the quality of care. So I just want to appreciate that we actually have a jail facility that's part of the nonprofit human service network in this community, and accolades to you for that. And I mean that sincerely. A person can make a huge difference, and I think you and your team do. So thank you. I'm proud to be a part of that. And Chair, whenever discussion is over, or anyone else, I'd be happy to make a motion.
I will call on you for that motion when the time comes, Commissioner. Thank you very much. Further discussion? I see no one raising hands for the queue. There's Vice Chair Trieger.
Thank you, Chair. I want to make really clear, I very much appreciate the work happening in our jail and what you do, Captain Riley. I've been on several tours of the jail, and this is in no way a comment about the services that we are delivering. We're doing incredible work with very limited resource, but we shouldn't have to be doing this work. This isn't work that belongs in the jail. And so I'm really glad that you mentioned our efforts to build a behavioral health stabilization center so that we can appropriately house and treat folks, because one of the most important things, in addition to alleviating suffering, is that I believe that program will really be what people need when they off ramp, when they leave that facility, there'll be much more of a warm handoff and a continuity of care plan in place. I know in the materials you talk about how we provide people with referrals to ongoing care in the community and resources, but that's not the same because that's not what a jail does. A jail can't do that warm handoff and that integrated work with the provider network and the supports in the community. So we really are failing people in Lane County by using this last resort resource as a way to address mental health crises and addiction. So I'm proud of the work we're doing, but I'm really disappointed and sad that it's work that we're doing in our jail. That said, I wanted to, I have one specific question, but I also wanted to ask if there's anything more you want to say, because perhaps I'm misunderstanding in the materials. But when I see that people are given referrals to resources in the community when they're discharged or when they're released, I'm assuming that is simply all it is, maybe a list of some phone numbers or websites. There really isn't any kind of continuity of care, case management, or more of a warm handoff to any direct providers. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that. Thank you for that opportunity. I would say 5 years ago, that was more of the case. As I became a lieutenant and was in Lieutenant Rice's spot and then became the jail commander, we've continued to build relationships throughout the community to do the best we can to place people. The Impacts grant that we got a couple of years ago, $3 million to work with behavioral health and create the mental health liaisons and the peer supports and all those efforts. Those were groups that I personally sat on to come up with ideas to try to off-ramp the people that we see in our system. That I agree with you. They are coming through our system, and their lifestyle is what's causing their criminality. We see a lot of trespassing, disorderly conduct. The underlying issues are drug addiction and alcoholism, and we're seeing them come through our jails. And it's been with the creative efforts that we've had to try to off-ramp these folks out of our system to prevent them from coming back to our system, but also at the end of the day, hopefully getting help. So I agree, resources are limited in our community, but some of these referrals, particularly the MAP program that Lieutenant Rice spoke about, that was a grant that we got to try to get folks on a medically assisted therapy program in hopes that they would actually follow back up when they get out and get on those services. So while we're still falling short in the community of having adequate places to release people to, I do believe the referrals aren't just shallow referrals that are going nowhere. We are doing the best we can. And our mental health providers, Denise Pearson, our director of mental health in our building, is working to build that team every day and building the resources. We're using peer supports more and more and more with HIV Alliance, Lane County Behavioral Health, sponsors, any place that we can do that sort of work, we're doing that. And she's gaining momentum every day.
Great, thank you for that. And I know you and your team are working hard in partnership across departments here at Lane County on the Behavioral Stabilization Center. So thank you for that, because it's only going to make your job easier when you can focus on what the fundamentals of your job are supposed to be, if we can have more of that treatment happening in more appropriate settings. So thank you for that. Finally, my other point, and then that'll lead me to a very specific question, is again, no disrespect to WellPath and the services that they provide, but by contracting these services out, we are taking jobs that could be county employees with county wages and benefits being paid to local employees, and contracting them out to a company that doesn't have perhaps some of the same commitments and standards that this organization does to how it pays and benefits its employees. So I would like someday to see us get back to a place where we can employ folks in these positions within our jail that are actually Lane County employees. And so I know that's a ways off because of a number of factors and budgetary constraints, but I don't see anything in the materials, and forgive me if it's just simply something I've overlooked, about the duration of this contract, what is being proposed, upcoming, and what's been the history of the duration of the contract. Thank you.
Yeah, those are all fair questions, Commissioner. I appreciate that. I would say with what WellPath provides right now, the oversight of being a nationwide company, and again, when they grew from CFMG to incorporate CCS, they have directors that oversee all their departments across the nation too. So they have outside support that oversees, like our mental health section has another oversight within their operation that provides really state of the art and the best quality of care you can provide. So for what we get for our investment really is top-notch medical care. They have, I think, 29 and a half FTE for that $5.5 million medical contract they bring in here. And that's anywhere from administrative support. They break out the medical care with CMAs, LPNs, RNs, psychiatrists, doctor, nurse practitioner, mental health specialist. So what they bring really is a good value for what we get. Could we do that within the county to provide the same level of service? It would be hard to replace that tomorrow with what we have today. So what we're getting really is good quality. The duration of the contract, I believe back in 2015 when we started this, we've renewed that contract as many times as we can. So I think we started out with, I think it was a 3-year, and then we had the ability to add some 1 years onto that. And so now we're at the end of that duration. And so we would like to enter back into probably at least a 3-year to keep the stability. So we don't want to lose any of the momentum and the services that we have going forward with all the programs we've talked about. So as Lieutenant Rice and I and the sheriff sit down and work through this contract negotiation, it's going to be something that we could stabilize for 2 or 3 or 4 years. What we do is very unique. And I think that's why only one provider responded back to our proposal. Because as Commissioner Burney mentioned, there's not a lot of jails in Oregon. I don't know how many across the nation are as invested in our mental health and our programming and what we demand as a jail from our medical provider. And WellPath has been there through the whole entire process with us, taking all of our challenges and all of our concerns and saying, yes, we can do this with you. And I think that was evident when no one responded back except for them. So yeah, we don't want to lose any of that momentum, but we also want to be judicious of taxpayer dollars and make sure that we're spending it correctly as well. So I appreciate the question. Hopefully I answered your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I just didn't want this opportunity to pass by to at least share that I am exceptionally proud of how our jail operates, and especially in the mental health and healthcare aspect. As you've been saying, we are unique, probably not just in Oregon, but all over the country in the way in which we are in the leading edge of servicing people who are often diagnosed or dual diagnosed with other issues that plague them. I look forward to how the changes will occur with the stabilization center coming on board. We have a little time before that's going to happen. Couldn't be soon enough for, I'm sure, you as the providers and those that need that really important service. But I wanted to just take a moment and thank you for how well you operate the jail. And I think over the years, as I've been commissioner, I have not heard of any issues with WellPath come up. And I appreciate that they're doing a good job. As much as I also want to employ people in Lane County with Lane County benefits, if there was an alternative like this that fits within the budget, this is it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Buck. Commissioner Bozievich.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that this is one issue that Commissioner Buck and I are in complete agreement about. The work that the jail has done to move forward in the care of folks, both physically and their mental well-being at the jail, has just been amazing over the years. I remember when the board first voted to add 3 mental health care workers to the jail staff years ago, and the improvements we've done since then. And it's been a continuing effort by the folks in the jail and as part of our Public Safety Coordinating Council to wrap mental health care into our criminal justice system and provide points of diversion all along. I really look forward to us getting our crisis center open so that many of these people don't even enter the jail in the first place. That's the real sad part, is a lot of these folks shouldn't be going to our jail in the first place. But I wholeheartedly support the renewal of this contract with WellPath. And I completely agree with Commissioner Buck about the amazing job Captain Riley and the jail staff have done in providing for the mental health support of their folks that they are currently in care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozievich. And in the interest of bringing the panel who's for the 10 a.m. time certain forward as quickly as possible, I'll keep my comments very, very brief. Captain Riley and Lieutenant Rice, thank you very much for not just the presentation today, but the ongoing work that's been highlighted by other commissioners. I won't go into more detail on that. You know, the President Biden in his State of the Union a couple of times said, fund the police, fund the police. When he's talking about fund the police, I call back on previous Board of County Commissioners when we first put the sheriff's levy on the ballot, and we've done it twice. The previous Board of County Commissioners did that twice. A large part of it was to increase mental health services in the jail as well as youth services. And I want to compliment you on taking that very seriously and making that an absolute part of what we do in what is currently the largest mental health facility in Lane County. And we continue, as Vice Chair Trieger said, to in our quest to divert people who need professional services from booking into the jail. So thank you very much, Captain Riley and Lieutenant Rice, and Commissioner Berney, I'll call on you for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move order. You can tell this is gonna be real controversial. I'm sorry. I would like to move order 22-03-08-08 in the matter of entering into good faith contract negotiations with WellPath LLC.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Berney, seconded by Commissioner Bozievich, order 22-03-08-08. Discussion to the motion. I see no discussion, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Captain, Lieutenant, thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair Farr and Commissioners, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Then Mr. Mokrice will take a step forward to our 10 o'clock time certain, and I'll extend my apologies personally. I view it as a personal issue of mine that I did not keep us on time, and I apologize to that. And if you have a problem, please address me personally regarding the late start of our 10 a.m. time certain. Anybody wishing to view this who is watching can click on view material, get all the information that is being presented today. And Mr. Mokrice, I'll turn it over to you to introduce the 10 o'clock time certain panel.
Thanks, Chair. And Austin Ramirez is going to lead this item. So go ahead, Austin.
And Austin, I beg your pardon, I need to mention what we're talking about. We're talking about order 22-03-08-09 in the matter of authorizing the county administrator to sign agreements with City of Eugene and Peterson Pacific Corporation to approve an enterprise zone property tax exemption request. Mr. Ramirez, thank you.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Jenna Cusimano is our staff lead for this item in this project, so I will be here to support the item, but I'm going to pass it to her to lead.
Thank you so much, Austin. So as mentioned, we are here today requesting approval for a enterprise zone exemption request for Peterson. They are requesting a 5-year exemption, which is 2 years past the standard 3-year exemption. As Lane County is a co-sponsor with the City of Eugene for the West Eugene Enterprise Zone, both parties do review applications for extension requests beyond that standard 3-year exemption. So with us this morning, we do have staff from the City of Eugene, Ann Fifield, Economic Strategies Manager, and Amanda D'Souza, Business Development Analyst, as well as representatives from Peterson who will be able to speak in greater detail with any questions you may have. That includes Don Green, General Manager, Rebecca Sampson, HR Manager, and Daryl Lively, Facilities Manager. At this time, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Amanda to give a more detailed overview of this exemption request.
Thanks, Jenna. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, thanks, Jenna and Austin, and good morning to the commissioners. Okay, so today I'm here to talk about this Peterson Pacific Corp, who have submitted a request for an extension to the enterprise zone tax exemption. Peterson is a manufacturer of forestry equipment here in Eugene. Originally started in 1981 as a heavy construction company, they've since expanded to manufacturing forestry equipment to support their construction operations. In 2007, Peterson was purchased by Aztec Industries, an international company that specializes in the manufacture of products and machinery used for building infrastructure. Peterson is seeking an exemption on a proposed investment of about $8 million for building renovations, machinery, and equipment to expand their existing Eugene location. The property is located in the West Eugene Enterprise Zone, and they've submitted an application for the tax exemption and have requested the 2-year extension to the standard 3-year exemption period. To get, as Jenna mentioned, to get the 2-year extension, both zone sponsors, the City of Eugene and Lane County, must approve the request. And the order you're considering today would authorize the county administrator to enter into an agreement with Peterson and the city for the 2-year extension. I'll do a quick recap of the program. The Enterprise Zone is a state program designed to encourage job creation and local investment within the manufacturing and traded sectors. The program, which is authorized by the state, is one of the few tools we have to support these industries, and it offers short-term property tax exemptions on new investments made by businesses that are growing their workforce. In short, it offers a 3-year exemption on property taxes made on investments inside the zone. Investments can include new building structures, modifications and additions, and installed machinery and equipment. Vehicles and personal property do not qualify, and it only applies to new investments being made. In order to qualify for the program, eligible business activities include manufacturing, processing, distribution, and warehousing. And businesses must also increase their number of full-time permanent jobs by 10% by the time they file their first exemption claim. And they must maintain this job growth throughout the exemption period. Finally, in addition to the basic program requirements, the West Eugene Enterprise Zone has additional public benefit criteria that businesses must meet to qualify for the full tax exemption. These criteria were last updated in 2017 by City Council and the board, and the criteria encourage businesses to take steps towards achieving certain community goals and priorities, such as offering high wages, employee benefits, or taking steps to reduce their environmental impact. There is also an exemption cap, which limits the amount of exemption a business can receive depending on the number of jobs they've created. Some examples of businesses that have participated in the West Eugene Enterprise Zone include Arcimoto, Ninkasi, Strapworks, and Snowtemp. Since this iteration of the zone was designated in 2005, 34 businesses have participated in the program, creating over 800 jobs associated with just the Enterprise Zone. Currently, the zone averages an exemption of about $7,700 per job created. It's important to note the Enterprise Zone property tax exemption goes beyond incentivizing job creation, but it also allows local businesses to reinvest that money back into their companies and leverage the exemption to continue growing. We've seen it with all 4 of these companies here who have each utilized the program multiple times as they continue to make investments and create more jobs. Now to today's topic. Peterson currently operates a manufacturing facility on Airport Road between the airport and Highway 99. The property, shown here outlined in yellow, is located inside the urban growth boundary and in the West Eugene Enterprise Zone, outlined here in blue. However, it is not located within city limits, shown here in hashed orange, meaning it does not generate property taxes for the city. They own the other adjacent properties not in city limits, shown here, but they're only requesting an exemption for the highlighted parcel. Peterson plans to invest over $8 million at the site for renovations, machinery, and equipment to accommodate the relocated manufacturing facility. They currently employ 200 people within the zone, and the investment will result in 85 new jobs to our area. Approved Enterprise Zone businesses receive the standard 3-year property tax exemption as long as the investment is eligible and the business increases their jobs by at least 10% for the duration of the exemption. The state allows businesses to request the additional 2-year extension, and this is subject to approval by the zone sponsors. As part of their Enterprise Zone application, Peterson requested the 2-year extension, which is why we're here today. Peterson's total estimated exemption for years 1 through 3, the standard period, is about $220,000. If approved, the total estimated exemption for years 4 and 5 is about $158,000. If Peterson's request is approved, there are additional requirements they'll have to meet. These additional conditions are on top of the standard program requirements set by the state, including increasing employment by 10%. First, Peterson will need to meet the state requirement for compensation. That is that the compensation for the new employees must be greater than or equal to 150% of the county's average wage. That currently is about $74,000. The state built in this requirement to ensure that businesses who receive the additional exemption are creating good high wage jobs. Also, in recognition of the additional 2 years of exemption, Peterson will partner with Lane Community College through its Cooperative Education Internship Program to offer welding students up to 5 paid part-time on-the-job training opportunities for each year of the exemption. And they'll also pay for those students' tuition and will offer a base wage of at least $16.35 an hour. Each position will last a minimum of 9 weeks. As I mentioned, Peterson still needs to meet the standard enterprise zone requirements in addition to these conditions in order to receive the full 5-year tax exemption. Should the Board of Commissioners approve the order today, the city, county, and Peterson would enter into an agreement consistent with the terms in the resolution. I'll now hand it back to Austin and Jenna to close out the presentation.
Thank you so much, Amanda. So based on the details of the request and what Peterson has committed to do above and beyond what is required of them for the enterprise zone exemption, we are recommending approval of this enterprise zone exemption request for 5 years. They've shown a commitment to their location in Lane County, investing in both their employees, and have shown themselves to be an excellent community partner. They've previously donated both machines and materials to LCC in addition to these internship opportunities that they're expanding with LCC. So now we're going to turn it over to you, the board, to see if you have any questions for either City of Eugene staff or any representatives from Peterson who are on the line and available.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation. That is, if I stand on my roof, I think I can see their property from where I'm seated right now. So I will turn it over to the board for questions or comments. Or Mr. Ramirez, is there anything you need to add before we move forward?
No, I'm all good. Thank you, though.
Thank you very much. Then we'll go to the queue, beginning with Commissioner Burney.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'm a real fan of the enterprise program, and I'm a real fan of the kind of community benefit requirements that are incorporated into it. So these are just questions for clarification. How many, I believe, Ms. D'Souza, you said that part of the requirements were adding at least 10% more jobs. I pulled up the company profile. It may be dated, but the profile I'm looking at says Peterson employs 183 people. Do you know how many jobs are committed to be created through this?
I am pulling up their application. I believe they employ about 200 people right now. And so at a minimum, yeah, so they have 200 employees right now. So at a minimum, they would have to add 20 new jobs, but they are expecting to hire 85 new jobs.
That's not bad. I presume, not knowing the exact budget for this investment of $8 million, that this is going to significantly add to the value of the property, which will ultimately mean more tax revenue to city and county. Is that correct?
Correct. Well, to the county, yes. That's the property isn't in city limits at the moment.
Right.
So to the county, yeah.
No, I think this is great. I think this fits at least my definition of economic development, which is private investment that creates sustainable jobs. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Burney. I'm looking back to the queue. I see no further hands raised. So I'll say this, Ms. D'Souza, seems like a long time ago that we sat in that room in the atrium and talked about the cooperation between the City of Eugene and Lane County on the West Eugene Enterprise Zone. We've a lot of water under the bridge since then. A lot of jobs, a lot of paychecks, a lot of ripple effect in the community. Thank you for your work. It seems hard to believe. I think that was probably darn near 9 years ago that we were having that discussion, which in certain terms, that's not a long time. I see no further hands in the queue. Any further discussion to this particular item? Then we do have a motion before us, which is Order 22-03-08-09. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Moved by Commissioner Buck, seconded by Commissioner Burney. Order 22-03-08-09 in the matter of authorizing the county administrator to sign agreements with the city of Eugene, etc., as stated in our agenda item today. Any discussion to the motion? I see no discussion, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. You are superstars at bringing us in under the allocated time. Thank you so much. And I apologize from here. It's my fault. I take full blame for the late start for your meeting, and thank you for being patient with that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Then we'll move along with the board. We'll step back to item 7, which is County Council. Mr. Dingle, are you still with us?
Mr. Dingle did inform me that he didn't have any announcements, Chair.
Then County Council 7A has no announcements. Thank you, Mr. Mokrahajski. We'll move along to B, which is a report on Travel Lane County the semi-annual report. And today, Mr. Mokrahajski, we have Kerry Westland on your panel. Mr. Mokrahajski.
And I'm just turning these items right over to the presenter, Chair. So I believe Kerry Westland is with us to give that presentation.
I will tell you that I've been in many meetings that Ms. Westland has presided over, and she's very, very good at it. Ms. Westland, good to see you. Mr. Verbora, good to see you.
Thank you, Chair Farr and members of the Board of County Commissioners. I thought I was going to be the one that was going to help make up time, and those guys were very efficient. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to present Travel Lane County's fiscal year 22 semi-annual report. This is one of 2 formal reports that we make to you each year. I just want to make sure that you can see the report on your screen. Okay, great. The Lane County visitor economy and our program metrics have moved in a very positive direction during the first 6 months of FY22. During the period, we adopted a slightly revised brand promise and also implemented a word mark to replace the detailed logo we used for more than a decade. It was a beautiful logo, but extremely challenging in the small format digital advertising environment that we find ourselves in more and more. And this is much easier to read and is off to a good start. I would encourage anyone listening in today who wants to learn more about how we approach our marketing and communications work to read our brand style guide, which is available on our website, www.eugenecascadescoast.org/brand. Our mission is to grow overnight visitors in service to help strengthen the local economy for hotels, restaurants, tasting room, grocers, retail, activities, attractions, and more. We are just part of the overall mix, but we do track overall outcomes, and the period saw record level revenues for commercial accommodations, up 74.4% from last year and 23.9% above FY20, 25.7% above FY19. So very, very strong revenues. Room tax revenues are at record levels through the period, signaling strong leisure travel has been bolstered by the return of mass gatherings throughout the summer into fall and now picking up in winter. This is certainly good news for the region and positions us well as we move toward a very busy spring and summer filled with track and field and other events. Reinforcing the TRT and revenue information that we just viewed, other key lodging measures are rebounding nicely from the hit taken in 2020. Lane County continues to perform well against state, regional, and national numbers. Room demand, or the number of rooms sold, went up 32.2% in Eugene for calendar year 2021, 24% in Springfield, and just about 24% in Florence. Eugene, if you might recall, was bouncing back from the deepest hit as the largest economy in our county in calendar year 2020. Very early in the period, we were still needing to pause some advertising intermittently in conjunction with public health indicators. Our tourism marketing team has since added what we call always on advertising across a number of channels and focuses on key fly markets to support air service gains at EUG. Late summer and fall campaigns encouraged visitors to go exploring and plan a getaway. We were thrilled to successfully host the Wine Media Conference in August, which led to coverage in top-tier publications. And as we moved into winter, a new campaign was launched and features our new brand look. The Come and Stay theme highlights trip motivators, as you can see in these images, and encourages visitors to stay the night. Our programs work together on most projects like the Wine Media Conference and on partnerships with partners like Avalo Airlines, one of our new carriers at EUG. We are very excited to be providing Avalo destination content for its website, and soon we will be having destination and event-specific messages actually read to incoming passengers by flight attendants, offering in-flight games with prizes, offering local swag for Avalo's Free Ticket Tuesday promotions, and flight attendants will be wearing Heart and Home pins, our new community brand around track and field, on Eugene flights. You can see some of the results achieved year to date across our leisure marketing efforts, and in particular, note the engagement we are experiencing. Clicks to offers, clicks in response to paid media placements, and e-newsletter signups point to increasing interest in our destination. Mark Twain once said, "Reports of my death are greatly exaggerated." And we are happy to note that this is also true for conventions and meetings in Lane County. It has been a rough couple of years, but the team has worked to host conferences, attend trade shows, and introduce planners to the updated brand through targeted newsletters. The team has achieved almost full annual targets in the first 6 months of this program year. 2022 is looking more and more like the year we will see a return to the robust meetings and conventions business we were used to pre-pandemic. Sports activities percolated throughout the pandemic, and while not always visible to the broader community, these events actually generated an increase in economic impact when adjusted for the accounting of the multiple years of NC2A track and field meets that went on the books. This is very exciting and will be followed by a number of new events in the second half of the fiscal year. We are headed into the greatest year ever for track and field events, starting with the collegiate season and ending with the World Athletics Championships in July. It's the most stellar lineup of meets ever hosted in Eugene and will be bolstered by the return of many more local sporting events that have been affected over the last couple of years. As we prepare for the World Athletics Championships, Oregon 22, it is worth noting that Hayward Field is booking events well into the future and will be an economic engine well beyond this summer. The investments made to reimagine Hayward Field at the University of Oregon will benefit our local economy as well as inspire all of us as we witness human potential and achievement into the future. The integrated marketing team continues to do stellar work. Our website has rebounded and is exceeding pre-pandemic numbers. Our efforts to refresh and create new and exciting blog and web content is at an all-time high. Our partners and communities are highlighted throughout our content, and that content is utilized across the organization by all departments and is featured in the new Champion World Host site and training series. A very exciting project we have underway is work with a company called Zartico, which aggregates anonymized data across a variety of sources and provides information in a quick dashboard view and a variety of customized reports. It allows us to really track visitor movements throughout the destination and understand which motivators work together within a given consumer's itinerary. We don't see their name or know exactly who they are, but we get a sense of those traffic flows. And knowing these visitation patterns will allow us to better tailor marketing messages, report out on top locations visited within the region, and much more. Through a combination of virtual and in-person meetings and events, we've been actively working with partners and communities. On the product development side, we support our chambers of commerce committees and cities with planning and project work. Our visitor center, which reopened last Memorial Day to walk-in traffic, scaled back to weekday hours in the fall. Our plan is to add back weekend hours and get back to 7-day-a-week service beginning Memorial Day this year. We are all systems go for the World Athletics Championships, July 15 to 24. This is the community brand that we're sharing out with other local partners, which doesn't require permissions, formal permissions from World Athletics itself. Our accommodations are running full, and we are encouraging residents to consider renting a room on one of the sharing platforms. We've also set up a booking portal to help ticket buyers easily find availability in rooms from Roseburg up through Newburgh. We just launched an e-commerce platform featuring this logo with posters, apparel, and strings of international flags, all at no markup, so area businesses and organizations can easily dress up and add to the energy. We are producing a pocket guide for use locally throughout the event that will complement our annual visitor guide. We've launched a fun program called Champion World Hosts with all kinds of information for residents to use in answering questions and helping our international and domestic visitors have a fabulous time here. And word to the wise, it's handy for anyone who lives here too to have fun, so check it out. Anyone with special events going on during well, really any time, but we're really keen up on World Athletics Championships. So you don't have to be a dues paying partner for Travel Lane County to post your event on our online calendar. If you have a special event taking place that's of interest to visitors, please feel free to post it to our website. It really is a go-to source for event information, and we encourage people to use it. We have branded hotel key cards at a good number of area hotels with this logo and a QR code to help visitors get right to our website content. The next few pages in the report acknowledge the dozens of volunteers who provide governance leadership from across Lane County, both public and private partner representatives of our board of directors, sports advisory council, as well as our staff team. We do have a couple of board seats vacant right now, and we are encouraging partners that these seats are open to any of our 650 dues paying partners. If someone is interested, really encourage them to reach out to me by email, express your interest. I'll get that information to the nominating committee. And then quick summary, I just want to say that all target markets are in recovery. Hotel revenues are strong. Occupancy has not fully recovered, and we have an interesting mix of business in market right now with a lot of traveling nurses, long-term stay, project-oriented room demand, and we still have some emergency room use as well. But we see these as hopefully temporary alterations, and hopefully we have less need for traveling nurses as we continue to come out of the pandemic. And we expect all target markets to normalize over the next few months. Organizationally, we are investing back at normal levels across all three target markets for FY23. We're kind of watching these national economic indicators and paying close attention, but at this point in time, we're looking at normalized revenues. And we anticipate fully funding the required TRT reserve account, which is part of our grant agreement with you, following the end of FY22. So that will be, it's a reserve account that we hold at a local financial institution. It's 20% of the annual total of TRT revenue that we receive from Lane County in our grant agreement. And it kind of locks down in the case of an emergency. It takes both approval from you as the Board of County Commissioners and the Travel Lane County Board working together. So we've been working to get that account in place. The pandemic halted that a bit, but we think we'll be completely there at the end of this fiscal year. And then finally, I just want to note, taking a look at the long term, we have a very strong bell curve here. You've heard me say this. Our shared destination focus really does need to include facility development to better even out year-round revenues. this is true in every community in Lane County. All of our communities experience a strong bell curve in the summer. The biggest potential gains from solving that winter challenge are in the metro area. So this is making the Lane Event Center master plan particularly interesting. But any convention or sports facility development like the indoor track remains a high need for long-term planning. Our funding partnership, it's been interesting as we've talked about these projects over the last few years. Our partnership with you makes planning with individual cities challenging if you're not there with us. So our relationship alliance is strongest with you as the Board of County Commissioners formally. And we're really finding that to solve some of these infrastructure issues over the long term, and they're big issues, we need you there with us as we're working with these communities on individual opportunities. And with that, I will see if I can answer any questions you might have, and really appreciate the opportunity to come and present to you today.
Well, thank you, Ms. Westland. Thank you, Carrie, and thank you for bringing a great Pac-10 University of Oregon linebacker along with you. Andy Vabora. I used to love watching you on the football field, Andy. Carrie, I'm going to say this before I look to the queue for comments and questions. You've been an amazing leader of the organization for so many years. I've been on your board this go round for close to 10 years. I'm joined on the board by another Lane County employee, which is Corey Buller as a voting member from Lane Event Center. And we have a couple of ex officio members who are in this audience today with Mr. Mokrahajski, of course, and Austin Ramirez are ex officio members of your board. Carrie, you've done a superb job of gathering around you talented individuals to further your work, and look at the results. I may have more to say depending on what other commissioners have to say, and I currently see no one in the queue, which often is an indication for hands to begin raising. Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I am just really proud of the way that the market recovery is going, and all the information that you brought forth with the recovery is phenomenal. I did not expect it to recover this quickly. And so that is really exciting. And knowing that we're going to have some world-renowned events this year in our area, it expands on the recovery process that we'll be able to see here locally. I do wonder if we're going to have enough places for everybody to stay in order to enjoy and be a part of the games. What do you see with the hotel demand? You said we weren't at capacity yet, but hopefully I heard that right. And then certainly around particular events, we'll see a surge. I'm just curious if we'll be able to accommodate all the people that I hopefully anticipate seeing coming this summer.
Commissioner Farr and Commissioner Buck, thank you for the question. We really are pretty much at capacity for commercial accommodations during the World Athletics Championships. There's always a little bit of flux that happens in these major events where you have some things that open up. We try and work nimbly to get every room filled as that sort of flow starts. But we, along with the Willamette Valley Visitors Association, Travel Southern Oregon, and Travel Oregon, did set up this regional booking portal, which is very unusual, to help ticket purchasers quickly connect directly with hotels in market all the way from Roseburg up through Newburgh, and things are filling. Salem is hosting an Ironman. They held an Ironman last summer very successfully, and it's coming back, and it's coming back right ahead of the World Athletics Championships. So there's a lot of activity going on in the Willamette Valley during this summer, and I think we've done as good a job as we can. And what we have done is we have honed in on travel time, because when you're traveling from Salem or Newburgh or Roseburg to Hayward Field, it's like traveling across London or traveling across one of these other major metro areas that traditionally hosts this World Athletics Championships. So if we can get people coming in to purchase tickets out of the mindset of thinking about individual communities and their boundaries, and more about the region as sort of a combined unit, it really starts to bring down any negatives associated with how far out we're having to compress. And on the positive side, this is a state-funded event, and we wanted to impact more than just our local economy. And we are far and away, that is happening. We are driving economic indicators in communities all the way up the Willamette Valley, down into Roseburg. And that's a really positive story, I think, for state legislators who did something really unusual in securing this event. The other major outcome of that unusual decision was the reinvestment in Hayward Field. We would not have the reimagined Hayward Field at the University of Oregon if we were not hosting this event. And the economic engine that the reimagined Hayward Field represents to us and our local economy well into the future is mind-boggling. It is, not everything's public yet, but the number of events coming in and their magnitude, not only just the sheer economics of the events themselves, but the reputation building for our area is extraordinary. And that is a big positive. And it also exacerbates this challenge of this summer bell curve and the opportunity that indoor track to fill our winter season provides to us because of this reputation we're building as Track Town during the summer season. And that's why you've heard us sort of get on this bandwagon. Like, we're in a unique position here compared to any other community in the United States of America around this particular sports segment, whether everybody loves it or everybody doesn't. From an economic investment, it is an extraordinary asset that we have grown together over these last 15 years or so.
Thank you, Commissioner Buck and Ms. Westland. Commissioner Burney.
Well, I just wanted to say to Carrie and to Andy, kudos, not really just on the report, but on the mind-boggling amount of work and partnerships and coordination and activity that go behind the reports that we're looking at. Honestly, this board of commissioners always hears something called a structurally balanced budget, right? Where, this is the most structurally imbalanced opportunity for our area that I can conceive of. And by that, it's good, right? I mean, we are going to get so much attention, not just dollars, but media and visibility and branding and things that I can't imagine that we're in better hands than the two of yours and your entire staff to exploit. And exploit is not a bad word. We're talking about exploit in a good way to sustain this going on. I see so many opportunities. I'm not going to share with you my kid and some of his friends and how much they're getting for their places or rooms in their places for people coming in. I tell him, don't compete against the hoteliers. And he goes, Dad, I can make this much money. But truly, you've created a positive tsunami. And I only hope that not only this board, but our entire community, and as you said, Carrie, our state legislature, businesses in our community, that we all can get on the bandwagon and use for mutual public benefit. So thank you so much.
If I could just respond quickly to that too, because we are encouraging people to be sensitive about pricing on accommodations. So that was a good foray. You're doing a good job to counsel your kids to treat the marketplace with care, because that's part of the reputation building. And then the other point I just would want to make is that we're one strand. This is a huge effort. The University of Oregon, the city of Eugene, the county, the state, but we're your strand. So we're the strand that you fund that feeds into that larger partnership. And we feel pretty humble about that. And we really want to perform in a way that you feel good about. So we welcome your feedback and appreciate the funding of our work.
Thank you, Commissioner Burney, and thank you, Ms. Westland. I see no further hands raised. Give it a moment. I'll say that on page 7, you have a wonderful reverse angle view of Hasita Head Lighthouse. It's a photograph taken pointing toward the west from that big grove of trees, mainly spruce trees, but some pine trees up above Heceta Head Lighthouse. And it really is interesting to point out that if you look at the old pictures of the lighthouse when it was first built, long before 101 was platted and built, the lighthouse, not a single tree on a Heceta Head. Trees just simply grow in Oregon. I love that fact. Nothing you can do to stop it. I see no further hands. Then Ms. Westland, Mr. Vobora, anything you'd like to add to summarize?
Just want to express appreciation for the opportunity to bring this report to you each year. We know that you are dealing with a lot of different kinds of issues, and ours is a little bit of a different slice, but all the balls have to stay in the air over time. And so we're continuing to focus on the work we do for you as you deal with some of these bigger and broader challenges. And so we appreciate the opportunity to do our work. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Andy. A quick question for you before we hang up here. Did you ever sack John Elway?
No, I did knock down a pass, which just about ripped my hand off. So, but never sacked him.
Good enough. Thank you, Andy. Then Ms. Westland, Mr. Vobora, thank you so much for all the work that you do. And we'll move down our agenda. Moving down to County Administrator item 8C. Mr. Mokrahysky, any announcements today?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any announcements unless you have questions for me.
Questions from the board? I see no hands raised, Ms. Mokrahysky. Great. Moving down, then Commissioner's business. Any announcements from commissioners? Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. Had to remember to do the electronic hand. Well, since we've met, the legislature wrapped up their short session this year, and Lane County was the benefactor of a lot of good money for wonderful projects. But one in particular I wanted to point out was an ask I put in to the Wildfire Committee of $5 million for emergency communications, and ultimately that was funded. And so I'm thrilled to see that come into play and be able to expand our emergency communication towers in East Lane. I hope we will hear more about it at future board meetings. I know Alex will probably, come back and wrap up all the good things that happened recently. And as Chair, you and I chatted before the original meeting, the McKenzie River Discovery Center got money as well, which I'm also thrilled about. And that's a good start to their capital campaign that is much needed. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. I know there's a lot more that we received, and that information will be, released as we can. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner Buck. And I do believe that Mr. Kyler is working on a subsequent, once everything gets wrapped up and semi-digested, we'll have more to report on that. We'll move down the queue to Vice Chair Trieger.
Thank you, Chair. This is a little bit of a cheat to announcements versus remonstrance, but I wanted to let Commissioner Buck's comments this morning settle in a little bit about the situation in Ukraine, and also respond because we did, I believe it was copied to the whole board, at least one constituent recently messaged in asking and encouraging us, and had also reached out to City of Eugene to do what we can in solidarity with Ukrainian people. I want to appreciate organizers who put together a really nice gathering in solidarity this last Sunday, just here near the Public Service Building across the street that I had the honor to attend for a bit. I'm bad at crowd size estimation, but maybe about 100 people were there. But I wanted to respond to the one piece of outreach we got asking if we can do actions around whether it's posting on our website, reputable places where people can make contributions or donations, but also ensure that we are divested of any financial interests with the Russian government. And just assure anyone watching, I did a little bit of follow-up with some staff preliminarily, and none of our procurement or contracts, because we can't work with foreign nationals as a local government, but also I am going to have some conversation about some of our investment portfolio just to take a look and follow up with that constituent in particular to ensure that we're doing what we can to not contribute to that government aggressor, and make a very clear distinction that the people of Russia and the government of Russia are not necessarily one and the same or acting with the same motives. So really appreciate Commissioner Buck's comments this morning. It can be hard overall, but especially in this virtual environment for us to give things a little bit of a beat. But I thought that that was an important topic to circle back with. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Commissioner Trieger. I see no further hands in the queue. Then we'll move on down the agenda. Future board assignment requests. I see Commissioner Burney.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to reiterate something, if I may, that Commissioner Trieger said. In the 70s, I was actually a student very involved in the disinvestment from American corporations in South Africa at that time. Never underestimate the power of public bodies acting as a group and disinvesting as a mechanism to create pressure on world events. So thank you, Commissioner. What I wanted to say was, if you recall, Board, about 45 days ago, we were looking at a climate action plan, and I had requested, and we discussed and approved, pushing that off no more than 60 days, which would fall somewhere this month, towards the end of the month. This is a hurry up and wait, and then wait and hurry up request. I learned that just because of staff logistics, that draft plan that was to be presented to us was made public the moment before, so late that the climate advisory body was unable to comment on it or review it. And a variety of people made public testimony to that body saying, can you give us some time now to review this draft before it's submitted to the Board of Commissioners? Interestingly, for example, one of the people that testified this morning saying, hurry up and pass it, was one of the people saying, wait, I need some time to look at this thing. So given that, and given my impatience to move forward, nonetheless, with the board's indulgence, I'm requesting that as the person that requested 60 days, that we give staff a bit more time and bring to the board no later than our April 12th meeting that plan for approval, because once again, there are those that really, and they're legit, would like to have input on this, especially the climate advisory body, before we see it. So while frustrated, that is my request to this body, to push that to the April 12th docket, if that meets with your approval.
Thank you, Chair Burney. I would concur. Do we have further concurrence? It looks like we're a go on that, Commissioner Burney. And a reminder, that's separate to an agenda item that we have next week, which is on our Tuesday, March 15th agenda, which is a matter of providing the Climate Advisory Committee work plan report, different to what you're requesting for the April 12th meeting. We will have that report next week from the Climate Advisory Committee. Any further assignment requests? I see no hands raised. Then I'm going to mention ever so briefly as we get close to the end of the meeting regarding the events in Ukraine, the heartbreaking events in Ukraine. Last Saturday, my wife Debbie and I had a chance to sit and we had dinner with Rod Bauer and Lori Prodenbauer, both of whom, Rod Bauer's mother and Lori's father, were Ukrainian. And so we had a chance to talk about what it felt like to family members, second generation US citizens from Ukraine. And it's not, you know, there are no words to fully express what is deep inside. I know of all of us at this point in time. And Commissioner Trieger, Commissioner Buck, all commissioners, thank you very much for your caring, your participation. And if you would not mind, let's indulge ourselves. It's not an indulgence. Let's commit to just a brief moment of silence. Let's take 10 moments of silence to contemplate on the events in Ukraine. nowhere near enough time to fully reflect. Moving down the agenda, Mr. Mokrahajski, item 14 is a review of assignments. Can you review what assignments you may have received?
We'll just adjust that previous assignment that Commissioner Burney referenced related to the climate action plan timing coming back to the board. Other than that, I don't have anything new.
Thank you, Ms. Mokrahajski. Any challenge to that report? I see none. Then we have no reason for executive session today. There will be no executive session today and no other business. Our next board meeting will be next Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022 at 9 a.m. It'll be via remote, via Zoom, as this one has been. And with that, Board of Commissioners, with no further.
Pardon me, Chair, just for the record, I believe you misspoke. Our next meeting is the 15th, not the 22nd. We're back down on the 22nd.
Thank you. I was looking at the March 15th agenda and added 7 days. So sorry.
Minor detail.
Well, with that red face, with no further business, I'm going to give it a few seconds to make sure there's no further business. With no further business for today's agenda, we are adjourned.
Thank you.